Our whole purpose is so that people can continue the journey and not be held up by the insurance world. The fact of the matter is insurances pay very little for people's recovery, very little. And so what's happening is a cycle of of loss of function because people say, well, my therapy ended, so now essentially I'm not going to do anything until I can have therapy again. And that's just, our mission is to not have that happen. So right from the beginning, when people come in, we actually, at our evaluation, have a trainer in every evaluation.
I'm Garrett Salpeter, and I believe that the most powerful and transformative way to help people recover from pain and injury, heal from trauma, and reach their highest levels of fitness and performance is to focus on the nervous system. In this podcast, we'll share knowledge from the frontiers of neuroscience and inspirational stories of how applying that knowledge has empowered people from all walks of life to heal, adapt, and grow. NeuFit Nation, welcome back to the Undercurrent podcast. I am recording here in person at our office in Austin, Texas, with special guest Melanie Brennan, who is a physical therapist and founder of EA Therapeutics Health in Rochester, Minnesota, which we're trying to rename to EA Rochester Therapeutic Health, so the acronym is EARTH. We're just talking about that. But Melanie, thank you for being here.
I'm really excited to be in Austin.
So you're here visiting all the way from Minnesota, in part because we are hosting, at the time we're recording this weekend, hosting an MS boot camp. So you're down here kind of checking out how we're doing that, and that'll be a good segue into the work that you're doing at EA.
Yeah, I'm really excited to participate and see what the MS boot camp is all about.
Awesome. So we will definitely get into the work that you're doing and talking about your practice because there's a lot of fascinating topics there. Can you tell us a little bit though about your kind of history and origin story here? Because I know Rochester, Minnesota, many people probably know as the home of Mayo Clinic. So that's part of your background. But can you talk about sort of your history and how you got to starting Exercise Abilities, then turned EA?
Yeah, so many years since becoming the founder of EA. So yeah, I was a physical therapist, graduated back in 1998, so quite a while ago. Initially, really knew I wanted to be a neurologic therapist and started gathering experience in that area. Started in nursing homes and then worked at a hospital where I did stroke rehab, and eventually came to Mayo Clinic and working as a spinal cord injury therapist on the spine team at Mayo Clinic, and amazing experience. The amount of different diagnoses and things that you see at Mayo Clinic really are amazing. You really do not get that experience anywhere else. I worked at Mayo for about 10 years in that practice and worked everywhere from the ICU to the acute care, walking the halls, going door to door, and then ultimately an outpatient, and really had a wonderful experience in the outpatient world at Mayo. And what I saw there was a need. And I saw a need where physical therapy just seemed to have such a stop in people's lives, especially after something as traumatic as a spinal cord injury. And we really just had them go out into the world with a home exercise program. And we had no solution for them to continue that journey. So what I started seeing and got frustrated by was people coming back. Coming back and things that we worked on, they couldn't do anymore. So we could get them walking with walker and crutches. We could get them up on treadmills. We could get them really functioning on an optimal level before they would leave rehab, and the outpatient care that we were able to do. But when they came back 6 months later, they weren't doing those things anymore. I was very frustrated by that. And I'm kind of a person that when I see a problem, I'm a solver. And so I got to thinking about it. There's got to be a better way. And there became a path for a better way for me. I started seeing these places pop up around the country, usually in bigger cities, that were neurologic recovery centers. I became very intrigued by that and decided that's what I wanted to do, is open a neuro recovery center.
So then you leave Mayo, start this originally called Exercise Abilities Clinic. And what out of the gate, was it originally sort of like it is now? Was it originally physical therapy plus this activity-based gym all under one roof, or what was sort of the first iteration?
Well, the first iteration was my minivan with my baby in the back seat. That was the first iteration. I told my husband one day, I said, I have to quit. I need to try to start this. And he's like, okay, how are you going to do it? And at that time I was working part-time and had three children under the age of 8. And I said, well, I can start from a car. I'll find a way. So yeah, I started door to door, gathering clients from referrals and going into their houses because I did not have a space. About 6 months into it, I built a relationship with the local YMCA, and I started working in their gym. And pretty soon my practice grew pretty big, and they were like, hey, you're taking up a pretty big corner of this. And I wanted them to put in some equipment because I really needed some extra special equipment and things. And amazingly, I had a client who had a strip mall, and he had a space open. And he said, hey, you got to get out of here. You need your own space. And so that's kind of how our space was born. I had one employee at the time.
Wow.
Moved into 2,500 square feet. And that's kind of where it all started.
Wow. And then how many years ago from the time we're sitting here today was that, getting into that first space with first employee, 2,500 square feet?
Yep, 2011.
2011.
So 14 years.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah. My youngest is turning 14 in a couple of weeks. And that was kind of when this all happened. I had a third baby crisis where I was just like, I need to do something different. So yeah, she's turning 14 and has grown up with me building EA. Yeah.
So as your children have grown up, so too has the business.
Yeah.
And now, kind of fast forward. So now the space size of the team is what, over, it's like 15 to 20 people.
Yeah, we quickly
6,000
grew.
square feet.
Yeah, no, we quickly grew out of our 2,500 square feet. I was up to about 10 employees working in that 2,500 square feet, seeing pretty high-level neurologic, spinal cord injury, stroke. We had equipment. We were busting at the seams. We had 3-4 patients at a time, plus the trainers on a mat. Was crazy. And so, go back and answer your question, right from the beginning, it was PT and the trainer. So my second employee was a trainer. So I always wanted that model to be together. And so today we have a staff, we moved in 2017 to a 10,000 square foot building, a few private treatment rooms, but really just a big open space for a gym. We have grown, kind of changed during COVID a little bit, but grown back to about 28 employees. A real mix. Right now we have, I think, 6 PT staff. We've been adding a lot lately. So 6 PT staff, PTAs, and then I think we're at 11 trainers, and then office, variable office staff that we have as well to add to the total employment. But yeah, we actually, our training program is bigger than our PT program.
And I guess that makes sense if part of your reason for doing it was to be able to provide that continuum of care in the community and everything. So I do want to dive down more deeply into that, because for everyone listening to this, I don't know how many people have been to places like this that have these activity-based gyms, and it's just interesting. It's therapeutic, but it's non-clinical at the same time. It's more ongoing fitness, but very targeted to help specific patient populations be able to continue to make progress. Can you just tell us a little bit, first of all, kind of orient, big picture, how it works when people come in? Are people, do they have to see a clinician first? Do they see a PT and then transition? Do they come in sometimes just for the activity-based training? Can you just sort of let us know how that all works to help orient everybody?
Yeah. So our process, we call it EA way, and really it's meeting the needs of the person. And so how they come in typically is with physical therapy. And I think that's just because of our societal use of the U.S. healthcare system. And we're used to using insurance. We're used to accessing the professionals that are within the medical system, the providers within the medical system. And so people are truly, even 14 years into doing this, people are truly most comfortable coming in with a physical therapy referral, a physical therapist to see. And that's what we see still today. Can people come straight into work with our trainers? Can they come straight into our group fitness classes like stroke fitness and Parkinson's wellness? Yes, they absolutely can. So we have some people that are maybe further in the rehab process and feel comfortable with where they're at, and they can enter at that point. But about 95% of people start with physical therapy with us, and that's where they feel most comfortable.
And then would it be, you mentioned they're coming in because they're intending to use insurance, and that's sort of how most people interact with healthcare, then would they essentially, once their 20 visits for the year, whatever their benefits are complete, then transition?
Yeah. So that word transition is always one that gets a little bit tricky in our world, right? Because we really consider it to be a continuum. So kind of a movement improvement continuum. And that continuum is a flow of physical therapy being there to help guide your journey. But we never want people to, our whole purpose is so that people can continue the journey and not be held up by the insurance world. The fact of the matter is insurances pay very little for people's recovery, very little. And so what's happening is a cycle of of loss of function because people say, well, my therapy ended, so now essentially I'm not going to do anything until I can have therapy again. And that's just, our mission is to not have that happen. So right from the beginning, when people come in, we actually at our evaluation have a trainer in every evaluation.
Oh, cool.
Because and that we don't charge for that. It's not extra. We just are committed to that because we truly want to have that conversation from day one and say, this is something different. What you've experienced from PT in the past, you've had PT for 20 visits, then you don't have PT and you get worse, and then you have PT for 20 visits, and then you don't have PT, you get worse. Physical therapy is really a lifelong journey for the individuals we work with. So physical therapy has many providers and it has many sources of payment. And so we start having that conversation from day one. Part of your physical therapy is working with a physical therapist or physical therapist assistant. But your journey cannot stop just because insurance stops paying.
Right.
It's so important. And if we as a society want to stop the unhealthy, unwell of people with significant medical and neurologic issues, we have to shift the thinking away from I only get care when insurance will pay for it. We have to get people to be open to what else is out there because physical therapists, we want to keep helping people. We feel so strapped by the insurance system. We don't like saying, I can only work with you 12 times because no way are most of these people's journeys done.
Yeah, if someone has a spinal cord injury, a stroke, MS, it's years of continuous effort.
It's a big dissatisfier in our profession, our neurologic PT profession.
Yeah.
Because we want to keep helping people, but society wants insurance to pay for it.
Yeah, for sure. So with this activity-based gym, this big component where you have twice the number of trainers as you do PTs, I assume that's because you're able to continue to see people, instead of 12 or 20 visits, you're able to see people ongoing for years, and you probably have this long-term continuity of relationships. Is that what you're doing there?
Yes. I have a couple of patients that, and we do call them clients. Sometimes I bounce between patients and clients. We have a few clients still that were with me in 2011.
Wow.
And they come 3 days a week.
Wow.
And their journey has been amazing. And we're keeping them healthy and well and out of the hospital.
Yeah.
And so, yes, my whole EA experience has really been a commitment to finding payment sources for people to keep this going. My worst thing to happen is when somebody says, I can't afford to keep coming here.
Yeah.
That's just heartbreaking, and that's our whole mission. And I will get into that, but why we're a nonprofit, because I am just fighting to find every payment source possible so that people can keep seeing us. And
I definitely want to talk about that, so we'll go there next. I think it's just worth mentioning this notion of, like a lot of times insurance benefits will stop if there's some sort of perception of a lack of progress, which can be subjective and difficult to quantify. But even besides that altogether, there is this very important notion that if someone, doesn't do at least some minimum amount of work, they're going to regress and get worse. They're going to have learned disuse. Neuroplasticity is going to work, but in a negative direction. And so it takes some significant amount of work just to maintain, let alone make progress and improve. So I think sort of reframing that whole notion of how we look at the long-term trajectory of someone with stroke, spinal cord injury, MS, et cetera, just understanding that the work that is necessary simply to maintain function is so important, and just underscores and highlights the need for what you're doing. So
yeah, I mean, everybody's So many people that don't face these challenges. I mean, I would say everyone. We've had bouts of times where we've been really active and we've hit the gym hard and we've seen the results and we've felt better and we've had less pain and we've been able to move better and we've been happier. And then we don't go to the gym and life gets busy. And we realize 6 months into it that we aren't sleeping and we aren't feeling as well and we're starting to have pain and we hurt our back and we hurt our knee and you know, and then we think, oh yeah, that's right, I stopped working out. Well, individuals with physical health challenges, they're financially strapped. They have so many barriers to working out that it's even more important for them because of neuroplasticity and because of the nervous system. I mean, so many things that you talk about, the nervous system needs more input when you have a neurologic problem. They should be going to the gym too. How many days a week? Just like us, 5 days a week, right? 6 days a week. The things that they need to be, the help that they need to move is not in their homes.
Yeah.
The equipment they need to move is not in their homes. Home workouts don't work. And we know this in the research shows a significant failure in home exercise programs. And with increasing disability, it's worse.
Yeah.
They need a place to go.
Yeah.
They need a welcoming place, and the equipment they need is expensive and important. If you can't walk without 2 people assisting you, how are you supposed to walk at home with one spouse? You have to have a place to go to, and you have to go there for your entire life.
I mean, I'm 100% sold on the importance and the value of what you're doing, and it begs the question, you know, why is there not one of these types of facilities in every small to medium-sized town and multiple in a city like Austin or you know, bigger metro areas? You know, why are there only, you know, dozens or hundreds of these instead of thousands and thousands of these types of facilities around?
Very good question. There should be one in every medium-sized town. There should be several in large cities. There should be one around the corner, just like there is gyms. There should be, and this should also be integrated into gyms, I will say. So like every gym should have a rehab area in it, and that would actually meet the needs quite well, partnering together. But why there isn't is 100% financial. You see them pop up and you see them go away. You see them pop up and you go away. And I can guarantee you it's not passion. It's not a lack of passion. It's not a lack of very smart entrepreneurs. It's not a lack of a lot of people coming around it. They're just, the population we serve has very limited funds, has a ton of barriers, both health and transportation. It is a difficult population to serve because of those barriers and because of financial limitations. And so we just, to make it a business, the owner needs extra income. And so we need to charge a lot because it's very expensive to do this work. It's very expensive. Some of the equipment is $100,000.
Like the exoskeletons that do walking?
$300,000. We don't even have one of those yet because we're waiting for some federal funding that hasn't come through. So, you know,
what are some of the, just to give people a sense of like, what are some of the other, these, you know, 6-figure pieces of equipment?
There's one piece of equipment where we're working to fundraise right now. We just actually started a GoFundMe for it. It's called the Light Run. It's a wonderful piece of equipment, locally invented in Minnesota. And it's an air, essentially it's a walking device. It makes it possible for people to walk with just one person assisting them. It's an overground walker, very cool. And then you put pants on the individual and then hook them to the walker. And the pants fill with air and help them stand.
Cool.
And then those air-filled pants help them walk. And quite amazing, $100,000 for one system. And so the inventors actually often let us trial it at EA because they know it benefits so many people that we work with. And right now we actually have it again. And again, like I said, we're doing a GoFundMe. $100,000 is a big GoFundMe. But as a nonprofit, we can do this type of fundraising and confidently eventually we'll get this equipment. And it just helps so many people. It helps our trainers not get hurt. It helps people walk easily with less effort, and they can walk further, longer. And that's what we need. I mean, even to build our muscles, we need to walk we need to run, we need to walk, we need to go
Yeah.
3 miles. So if they can only go 10 feet with the help of 2 people straining themselves, that's not exercise. But with something like that device, we also have robotic body weight support treadmills. They can walk 3 miles just like you and me.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And that's amazing for their neuroplasticity. And so that's just not something you find in a gym. Not every gym can afford a $100,000 walker.
Yeah. Thank you so much for listening to the Undercurrent podcast. If you're interested in learning more about how NeuFit and the Newbie can impact your life, please visit our website at www.new.fit, that's neu.fit, so you can learn more about how it might integrate into your professional practice, how you can use it as a patient, and you can also connect with our team there. So you've already mentioned a couple times that your enterprise is structured as a nonprofit, and so just to connect the dots, it seems like that is the solution that you chose to be able to find funding and be able to make this sustainable financially also, right?
It is a wonderful solution. There are several centers around the country that are nonprofit. I think if you look at the longevity of centers like ours, you're going to see more longevity in the nonprofit versus the for-profit business. And the reason is when I first started with my baby in the backseat, it was definitely an LLC. I didn't have any thoughts I didn't know much about business. I didn't go to school for business. And so I researched and, okay, I'll do an LLC. And eventually, about 2014, so 3 years into it, my husband sat down and was like, this was supposed to be a part-time job for you. And you kind of had a good salary at Mayo. And I know you're having fun and that this is doing amazing things, but you're still not paying yourself. And we were blessed. My mom did daycare for me, and my husband is a full-time administrator at Mayo. So, we were blessed. I was able to do that. But he's like, you're working really hard and a lot more than you thought you were going to, and you deserve to get paid. And so we need to think about how are we going to keep this going. And I was paying my staff, I was paying the bills. We were.
Of course, leaders eat last, right?
We eat last, absolutely. So something needed to change, and somebody. We have a wonderful area foundation, Rochester Area Foundation, and they had some resources. I met with them. I also met with SCORE, met with did some of the different business resources out there, and what can I do to help improve this, because we're doing amazing work and we want to keep going. And everybody kind of came down to, have you considered being a nonprofit? And I dug in, I started researching, did it pretty much on my own with the help of our area foundation. Like I said, some local attorney volunteers, formed a board, applied, and 6 months later got approved by the IRS. And I was like, okay. I have never turned back. I do very little in the clinic. I'm pretty much a full-time fundraiser. That's the consequence of this. You have to fundraise, but we have amazing equipment because of wonderful support, wonderful grants. We do fundraisers and are able to support programs. Our costs are significantly lower than they should be across the board, and so we do offer sliding scale scholarships.
Meaning your cost to your clients, your cost to consumer, you don't have to charge them as much. You're able to charge them less because you have donations and outside funding.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So we have an all-access fund that's really strongly supported by a wonderful organization called the Harper Family Foundation, and awesome. The earnings from that investment fund are able to come back into the company and support scholarships. And so, if it supports scholarships, it also provides our entry-level fee to everyone in the community, because we're committed to this being accessible to everyone. But we also want people that have some money to come to. This as a nonprofit, it isn't only for those people who need that financial assistance. It's for the entire community. And even working individuals that need this care, they can't go bankrupt getting this care. And so we bring that down about $50 a session from where it should be if we were a for-profit business for everyone. And then beyond that, some people come for $10 a visit.
Wow. Based
on their finances. And so we make it possible. That's my commitment. And because of that, I'm doing a lot of fundraising, and the money is going back to a really important cause. But about a year into being a nonprofit, I was making a salary. And I have made payroll, paid all bills ever since. And so I would never go back because it's making it possible to, I'm not saying that some days don't, like any business, have cash flow, but we have money in the bank. We have a wonderful facility. We're looking ahead at a bright future of expansion. Hopefully that goal of more communities having an EA type facility, we want to bring that to our area communities. Yeah, I mean, it's great. It's great being a nonprofit. Respect to those that are in it for profit, but the nonprofit has been really rewarding.
Yeah, that's awesome. And it allows you to fulfill your mission of making this ongoing, continuous care, exercise-based activity available to so many people. I love that. Can you talk a little bit, so people listening to this may or may not have any experience in the operations of a nonprofit. So obviously, you mentioned it is still a business in that you have revenue. Some of it is clients paying, some of it is donations. You have revenue, then you have expenses. You have 28 employees. You have to pay to maintain a facility. You're buying equipment. You yourself are getting a salary. You mentioned there's a board. There's these different pieces here. How does it work sort of from the business side? What's the same and what's different for people who run for-profit private practices? Can you just give a little bit of insight into that? Because
it is exactly the same. My operations director loves to share this with people that we are a business and we do need to make money. We have to make money so that we can pay our bills.
Right.
And so it's not a dirty word to say as a nonprofit you're making money.
Is the only distinction that if it's a nonprofit, you don't take profits out of the business, but they're reinvested back in? Is that essentially?
It truly, we get some tax breaks.
Yeah.
We get some property tax breaks. We do still have to pay sales tax. We do still have to pay medical. In Minnesota, we have a medical tax that we still have to pay. So we don't get a break from all taxes. We get a few tax breaks. And then yes, I am not the owner.
Right.
I am not allowed to take
like profit
earnings.
distributions.
Yeah, distributions. I'm not allowed to do that. When we have a good year and we have extra money and we do extra fundraising, that goes in two things. That's how we fulfill our mission. And it goes back in. And so we have set salaries. It's all public information. As a nonprofit, that is one thing. Everything's public. So you can go up and look up our 990. You can see that we're about a $2 million organization. Of that $2 million, I fundraise about 15% of that income. All the rest of the income has to come from somewhere.
Yeah.
I have $2 million worth of bills.
Yeah.
I am not unlike any other business.
With a 10,000 square foot facility, 28 employees, that is no small enterprise.
It is not a small enterprise that I run. And so, I mean, what it looks like is as the PT owner role, because we are a private practice in that way, a physical therapy and wellness center, that PT owner role falls on me, but so does many other things as a nonprofit.
Yeah.
And so I have to be responsible for all the development and fundraising. Hopefully going into this next year, we're working to build a team so we can fundraise more. Like I said, we have some goals of a bigger facility, a different facility, expanding to some other towns and bringing this good work to other places. And so I'll need a team. Yeah. But up to 14, or I guess we've been a nonprofit for 10 years. It's been me fundraising and my team, my wonderful team behind me, and it's a lot of work. So I have that extra role on top of the PT owner, and basically what that does is it pulls me out of patient care. So I don't get to do it. I dabble when they need me. I help coach, I help train, I help, but I do a lot with development.
Right, that's awesome. And then the other piece that's likely a little bit different from, for the private practice owners listening, people who are part of, big enterprise companies, we have experience with boards of directors, advisories and stuff like that. But how does that work? Do you need approval from the board? How often do you meet? Can you share a little bit about that piece of the organization?
Yeah, I have a wonderful board, but that is a big piece of my job too. Thank you for reminding me. So I do help with the board. And so I have a seat on the board. I attend all the board meetings. I work with my chair and my governance committee to plan the meetings. We meet every other month and other meetings in between, some different committees. We have a finance committee, investment fund committee, and that's an extra job. That's an extra job. But I also, what's wonderful about that is I have 9 to 11, depending on the size of the board at the time, consultants. And they're amazing. I have a retired attorney. I have accountants, I have other business people, I have mothers and fathers and brothers of clients, and they help steer the ship. Yeah, they do. But unlike other PT owners, I could lose my job. So I do work for the board.
Yeah.
I work for the company. So I'm a founder, CEO. It's always, founder syndrome, they call it. It's a real thing. It's a real thing. I have to share that with my board and my staff because I'm not the owner. And so it was different, but it hasn't been hard for me. I enjoy having more people at the table.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together, right? That's awesome.
Yeah.
So I love that. Thanks for allowing us to peek behind the curtain and sort of see how things operate. And I imagine this will be inspiring for people. Maybe someone listening to this will consider adding a activity-based gym component to their facility, or doing a new project in their local area, or reaching out to you to learn.
Yeah.
Talk about how you've done it.
Yeah, I mean, the profession's really pushing towards more cash-based services and more, and so I encourage people to not only look at it as an additional cash source, which in a very difficult time in healthcare, that's what people are looking for is additional cash revenue. But how can you make that really a mission-driven piece of what you do?
Yeah.
And like balancing that income, that cash need with how can you make sure everyone can access it?
Yeah.
And that's really what our whole mission is about, and what I encourage others to think about.
And I know we've talked with another physician from Mayo and possibly some research opportunities and things like that. But I know, and you still get referrals and still sort of collaborate and things like that with them too, right?
Definitely. Our challenges and our successes lie in being in the same town as Mayo Clinic.
Yeah.
And so amazing amount of resources, wonderful referral, teamwork, partnership, several research projects that we've gone through the years. We're just getting ready to embark on another, our first NIH partnership with Dr. Biden's group and stem cell spinal cord injury research, and be providing that activity-based training piece, and it's really exciting times to be moving into that. So we do research as well, and that wouldn't be possible without the universities around us and Mayo Clinic.
Yeah.
We love being a part of that.
That's awesome. I should also connect the dots for everyone listening. So the way that we connected, because you are a nonprofit and because we're super passionate about the work that you're doing, we actually met together through the newbie grant program and provided a device for you to use at EA. And I'm very excited to hear about that. So let's use that as an opportunity to segue. Can you talk a little bit about how the newbie has impacted your patients and clients, and how it's sort of fit into this environment?
Yes, amazing last year. The PT fitness world becomes very small when you realize that there's things out there you don't know about. And mutual friend Brian Gallagher was, we work with them, so a shout out to him. And was struggling a little bit I don't even remember the why we were struggling last year, but we gave him a call and we're consulting, and he's like, you know what you guys need is a newbie. And I'm like, okay, I've heard this a couple times from you, tell me more. And so I thought about it, and I went on the website that night and was like, okay, I got to learn about this newbie thing. And saw the first thing that popped up that I saw was a grant opportunity. And I'm like, well, I'm doing that. Like, that was just the stars aligning, right? Which has happened a lot during my life, my journey, when stars align. And so I filled it out. And a week later, I think Michaela or somebody from your team contacted me and was like, hey, you won. We want you to be our grant recipient. And so I told my team, hey, we're getting a new piece of equipment. Yeah, because sometimes I throw new equipment on them because of grants, And they're like, okay,
Melody.
Okay, we'll figure it out. I'm like, there's gonna be some training. They're like, okay. It has been absolutely a game changer for us. I can't even summarize it in even 10 minutes of how game-changing it has been for our clients, for our customers, for our staff, for myself, for our families, which is probably my biggest testimonials is my own families. But we quickly started fighting over the one that you granted us, and staff were like, I want it. And so we bought 2 more. We actually bought more, and now they're fighting over it. And just last week, a couple of them said, when are we getting more? We're finding patients are upset when they come that they can't have access to it. And when you have a staff as big as ours, that can
Yeah.
start being a problem because we're promising things to patients and they're experiencing the improvements that they're seeing and they want more of that.
Yeah.
So yeah, we've budgeted for a few more next year. But yeah, it's been game changing.
What are some of the, top couple of success stories that stand out, whether it's, you mentioned like your personal families or whether it's clients? I mean, what sort of stands out to you?
Yeah, we right away, as I started learning about it, I was like, hey, everybody, take one home. Like, take one home and on the weekend and try it out. And she gave me permission to tell the story, and I'll try to not make it too long a story, but it's kind of a long story. My own close family member of mine has been struggling since about 15 with some really quirky neurologic things.
Since 2015 or since age 15?
Since she was 15.
Since she was 15.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and just quirky neurologic things. And as a PT, and maybe a little distrust in the medical system in general, I couldn't see anything that was a cause for these things. She started with cramping in her feet after work, and after a long day, moved up to just uncontrollable spasms, there's kind of weird muscle patterns, migraines, made it through college, did an amazing job. But just little things that were just off, but not enough. I have a lot of physician friends, and I'd consult with them, and not enough to be anything to take her in for. When we would take her in, they were like, we'll watch it. Like, it's odd. Nothing that pharmacy or surgery could help.
Yeah.
And would you want to pay for an MRI? We're like, don't think it's a brain tumor, right? So
Yeah.
So we just watched it through the years, and then recently came home from college, and this last year, and at the same time as we got the newbie, so again, stars really aligned. It really took a spiral downward.
So the symptoms started at 15, then in college, so age 20. So this is like 5 years or so.
Yep. Now 21,
Okay.
back home, and it just took a dive, a spiral. Became really apparent it was dysautonomia. I actually hadn't, even as a PT in neuro, dysautonomia is not something that I knew about until we started really digging in with the newbie. And I think that is probably our biggest success stories that I have for you, is in that world of dysautonomia. It's been truly amazing. And so it would be like, Mom, my heart is racing. I don't know why. My bowels aren't moving. I have no bowel sounds. I can't sweat anymore. Like, these complaints started coming on about the same time as we got the newbie, and I learned the chapter on dysautonomia, so I just started digging in and reading about this, and like, I don't know the source, but you have dysautonomia. And we had tried things like gabapentin and it hated it, didn't work. So started treating her with the newbie. It just has been life-changing. Yeah, I mean, she's gotten her life back. From calling me at work, laying on the floor that she couldn't keep working because if she stood up, she was going to pass out, to, functioning. With the master resets once a week and really just like digging down in deep to FSM, which I just am love. I'm really excited to talk. I think in the new year I'll be taking Dr. McMackin's course and really becoming certified in it, because it has been life-changing for so many of our patients and our family members. But she's I would say a hyper responder to FSM.
Good.
And has been really interesting for me to learn with. But she responds really well. Now, whatever's going on, that root cause, we don't know. She still needs treatment about once a week. But physicians are marveled by the turnaround that she's had, and no pharmacy on board, no medications on board, just the newbie. And it's been amazing. And we have many stories like that, actually. We're really becoming a specialty center for dysautonomia, POTS, EDS, and really making life-changing things happen for people with that.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that. So are you using it in the practice, both on the PT and the activity-based gym side?
We are. I think where we're at, we've had it on board for about 10 months.
Yeah.
So I would say we're newbies at the newbie, right? So our PT practice has definitely adopted it faster. We are getting referrals. We've actually, another success story is we went into with the newbie with 2 PTs, 2 PT caseloads, about 2.5 3 sometimes. And this year we've hired 2 additional PT staff, and we're looking at hiring an additional PTA staff.
Wow.
And I've been pulled back in, and my clinical director has been pulled back into treating. So we're running about 5-6 schedules because people are finding out about our successes, and we're getting really complex cases sent our way, which we are loving. But it's been, I would say, a little bit slower to adopt into our wellness practice. And I think, honestly, they will probably agree in watching this that it's a capacity problem because the PTs tend to take them and use them. So we're working on that. I think we're going to need more newbies on board to really have it adopted across the whole practice. But they're loving it. I mean, we also are excited to be kind of branching into that sports wellness. We can do both. We can be really great at neuro and also do neuro first sports wellness, personal training. I mean, we have personal trainings on staff.
Yeah.
And so we're really looking at it. We've been starting to work with some of the local high school athletes and things, and that's really exciting to show people that neurologic rehab and neurologic personal training is truly for everyone, because our nerves as you say, our nerves run our system.
That's right.
Yeah.
The control system of the body. If you want to go to, impact something, I think it's worth going upstream as far as you can, having the maximum amount of leverage, whether you're looking for performance or health or recovery, improving function, whatever it is. Right?
Yeah, as a neurologic therapist, I've always kind of been a bit, and probably myself, just put myself there, pigeonholed into working with neurologic conditions.
Sure.
And in the last year, it's just been so fun to be branching more comfortably into orthopedic sports, but still being a neuro PT.
Yeah.
And helping people through activating their muscles that are turned off, through injury prevention, and really we're just hitting a new market, and it's really exciting.
I love that. I love that. Thank you so much for sharing, and it's an honor to have you here at NeuFit HQ.
Yeah.
So we covered a lot of ground today. We talked about your origin story, this true need in the community that you then created a business to meet, talked about the funding challenges, your strategy of becoming a nonprofit so you can have that sustainable financial model, the pros and cons there, some of the brass tacks of what you're doing. Let's see, is there anything more to say, anything more that you feel like, before we wind down, anything more you feel like you need to communicate here to NeuFit Nation?
Oh, so much. Gosh, thought about that before coming. I think adding the newbie and what you have brought with this technology, really, we all should be adding these types of technologies to our practice and really keeping up on what's out there and what's new and what's impactful. And it seems like a lot of in the PT world, I mentioned it before, but we're at a bit of a crisis right now. Our payment has not increased in 30 years.
Yeah,
it's tough. Salaries have increased 2.5 times, where our pay truly has been stagnant since 1995. We made $30 per unit then. We make $30 per unit now. But
crazy. PTs
get their doctorates, and they're they have to pay for this school loans, and so we're trying to keep up with salary requirements, all the inflation of cost, and so adding a new piece of equipment, it can be overwhelming, those costs. And we always try to look at ROIs. Is it going to be that return on investment? And I just encourage people that this is, and it's true. I've heard other people say it, but it has made a big difference. With that, your staff and you have to be ready to dive in and be open to new possibilities and find those people, like I did with my own family members, with our clients, that are success stories, and just be excited about that and share that with your staff, and it'll grow organically, I think.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that and coming on and sharing your story overall. So for people listening who want to learn more, see what you're doing at EA, what's the best place? Website, social media channels, best place to see you and your practice?
Yeah. Our website, chooseea.org. chooseea.org is probably the best place.
Is it 2 E's? So it's choose E with ending with an E and then another E.
I always like to complicate things.
Okay.
Yes,
Okay.
Choose E and then EA. exercise.org.
Okay.
EA stands for our legal name, Exercise Abilities. We do have a social media presence. We have a wonderful person on staff really ramping that up for us. Have a great branding marketing organization that has gotten us a really great brand in the community. And so we do have Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, just kind of starting to get into that. So that's EA Therapeutic Health, and then LinkedIn as well. So happy that I'm on LinkedIn as Melanie Brennan. So yeah, would love to connect and help people. Future goals of helping people with this whole for-profit, nonprofit transition. It's something I've lived and I'm still living, and it's still successful. And so I'd love to help support people. So reach out if you have any questions.
Yeah, it's a fascinating story. Certainly the first time we've covered that in 90-something episodes of this podcast too. So thank you for coming on and sharing that.
Thank you for the grant.
Really absolutely. I'm so glad. It was a perfect. I mean, when we were sort of envisioning that program, I think that you and what you're doing is on the bullseye of exactly what we have hoped for. So that's amazing to be able to support that organization, and it's wonderful. So yes, thank you, and thanks everybody for tuning into this episode. We will see you on the next episode of the Undercurrent Podcast. Please like, subscribe, leave a review if you wish, all those wonderful things, and we'll see you next time.